Welcome to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
Always a pleasure to host with you.
Oh, man, you know it is, man. I enjoy being on this show with you, man. I
Likewise.
really do. I hope we're making some inroads in the community.
I think we are.
Giving some information to people. Hey, man, we got a great show today. I have a longtime friend, longtime public servant with us today, doing a lot of great work in the community here in Indianapolis and Central Indiana. Just did a fantastic job with diabetes this past year. And now she's going to be here to talk about a town hall meeting today about black infant mortality rate and maternal rates that are skyrocketing. We're going to give her an opportunity to talk about that. But we're happy to have Miss Vanessa, Representative Vanessa Summers. I almost said her middle nickname, but I caught myself.
And we want to thank our sponsors,
Yes, we do.
Lee
Tell them who they
Castle
are.
and Crawley, and Fervent Care Child Care Christian Academy, and the Marion County Health Department.
And if you have a desire to be a sponsor, this would be a great show to sponsor. It's a great show to sponsor.
I want to encourage you also, if you, after you finish watching this show and other shows that you might have missed, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can pull us up there and subscribe while you're there. Also, you can go to our Facebook page and like us on Facebook. We have a lot to share with you. We'll be back in just a bit. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices, and we're joined by State Representative Vanessa Summers.
Hello, how are you, gentlemen?
Good.
It's good to be in the house with you two
Vanessa.
gentlemen.
Good to have you here. We want to get right to it. You're doing a lot of things with black maternal mortality.
Yes, what we found out is that in Indiana specifically, 44 women out of 100,000 can die from birth, from the date of birth, for a year afterwards. But in the African American community, it's 53 women per 100,000. And what we know is that in the healthcare system right now, we have some systemic bias going on. It's going on against women. It's going on against, it's going on against the African American community. For example, we have, everybody knows Judge Glenda Hatchett,
Right.
from the reality shows. Her daughter-in-law died 10 hours after giving birth, and they wouldn't listen to her. She kept telling them she wasn't feeling well. All she needed was a CAT scan. They didn't take her to get the CAT scan. When they finally figured out what was going on, she wasn't breathing, and she had blood in her, bag, her bladder bag. And when they did take her to surgery and opened her up, she was full of blood, and she died. They didn't listen to her.
Choked out.
And she choked out within 10 hours after giving birth. This was just from giving birth. They just didn't do the things they don't do for African American people the way they do for others. So we know that there's a systemic bias going on in the healthcare system. That's a whole other issue that the people that where I work, Indiana Minority Health Coalition, we will be taking that on in our next, we have 22 coalitions around the state, and we're a health organization, so we're going to be taking that on. But we know that even it doesn't make any difference your social economical level. You can be rich, you can be poor. They're not listening. And African American women are dying. What we need is data. We need a fatality review board. We need cultural on a state level. And we need cultural competency in the hospitals. We also need doctors, they need to have a rotation in cultural competency somehow. What we know is that, and how we got around to this is that I found that in Congress that they're looking at this too. One of our guests for my town hall meeting, which we'll talk about Monday, March the 16th, is Congresswoman Robin Kelly out of the 2nd District of Illinois. She has a piece of legislation called the Mama Act. So she's coming. We kind of reached out to her, and she said, well, I'm in Illinois. I could come over to Indiana to be with you. So she's going to be a guest at our town hall, at my town hall meeting. Also, we're going to have our own Dr. Kane, Dr. Virginia Kane, Public Health Department. She's going to be there. We have another lady by the name of Dr. Arlene Geronimos.
Heard of her.
And she has come up with a new term that deals with African American women. And she knows information and facts and figures about the systemic bias in the healthcare system. So we're going to be looking at that. And at this time in the Indiana General Assembly, in the Democratic side, there are more women than men. So
Why did you go there?
I'm just trying to set up the fact that we are going to start doing some things to help our women, and not let them continue to die. When we have somebody as a celebrity like Serena Williams that went through she went through this too. They weren't listening to her, but she kind of stood up on them, and she had a problem and could have died, during the period from birth to a year after. So one of the things we want to do is, a piece of legislation that I'm going to have is to have Medicaid. Medicaid only keeps you on for 2 months after you've had a baby. We need them to keep you on for a year.
Do you want to extend that?
We want to extend that. We want to also, have you ever heard of a doula? Doulas are women that will stay with you from the time you're pregnant to a year afterwards. We want to get them recognized in Indiana and brought up to what they do and where they do to help these women.
So you've got two big events coming up, September 16th.
Yes.
And September 17th.
6 to 8. And it's at our offices, the Indiana Minority Health Coalition.
Give us the address.
3737 North Meridian, Suite 300.
Representative Summers, look in this camera here.
Okay.
And give us the Monday, the location and everything real quick.
Okay. I'll be having a town hall meeting in conjunction with the Indiana Minority Health Coalition, and it will be Monday, September the 16th from 6 to 8 at the Indiana Minority Health Coalition, 3737 North Meridian, Suite 300. We will have Honorable Robin Kelly, myself, and Dr. Arlene Geronimos and Dr. Virginia Kane to talk about the state of Black maternal mortality. And we are 1 in 3 in the country that has the highest rate.
Indiana.
So Indiana, we have got to do something about that.
We're in a good place to do that with sponsoring legislation that will deal with it. And maybe we talked about
The surplus money?
the $2 billion rainy day fund. Is it raining?
It's been raining. It's been raining and rain for teachers. It rained a whole lot. But, I think that what we need to say about the Indiana General Assembly is that you must know that we are in a triple minority. I'm a Democrat, so I'm also, I'm in a triple minority. But I always say that I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm a Democrat. But we are with the governor being Republican, with the Senate being Republican, and with the House being Republican. We're in a minority. Even though I can say that this year I got some legislation through. And last year, I think I was one of the only ones that got my diabetes legislation through.
Yeah, did a fantastic. I watched that all of the way.
Yeah.
Your diabetes work was phenomenal, and very proud of you for doing that.
Well, we're still looking. Pre-diabetes is extremely dangerous, even though you and I know about diabetes, but pre-diabetics don't know. Right. And there's 86 million of those in our country.
Wow. Well, thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much.
You've been a great guest.
Yes, you have, Miss Representative. You've been doing a great job. Keep doing a great job. We'll be plugging for you.
And we want to thank all of you for joining us. We have much more to come. Stay with us. We'll be back after this. Well, welcome back. I'm James Jackson, your host, Real People, Real Voices.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
And we're joined by Dr. Kevin Berkopes.
That's me. It's great to be with you guys.
Thanks for being here.
Crossroads Education.
That's right, yeah. So a little background, because I know we just got a chance to meet briefly, but we started with this idea of kind of traveling around the country and learning from the education system. My mom taught on the south side here for 40 years, and I wanted to know more about what I didn't know. And what I learned was what's going on in our cities and our low-resourced areas. And we sort of landed on this idea that some of the best parts about what's coming in education is the young people, and they should be given the opportunity to be a part of that teaching ecosystem. So that's what Crossroads is based on, is this idea that the young people at our schools could be a part of the good teaching that's happening at that school and actually should be paid to do that. And so we have systems called a Learning Commons that we've built all over the city, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but it's a very new model that is based on the idea that we learn best from each other and from connecting, and then our software and other technologies are just meant to augment that.
So kind of give us some specifics on how that model works, because we hear a lot about a lot of different models in education. As we understand that technology is involved in there somehow, compensation. Give us a few more details.
So my background is I have a PhD in mathematics, and we created technology at the very beginning, and we created this idea that maybe tech is the way to scale actual equitable access to high-quality resources, because we know we have a workforce problem in our schools. Not that we have bad teachers, it's that we don't actually have enough good teachers to fill these positions.
And we don't treat them right.
That's right. We actually work them too hard and don't pay them enough. Right. Teachers are some of the best people in our community, and we don't take care of them the way that we should. The first idea was that tech would enable the connectivity to assets and resources, but what we learned is that humans don't want to do that. They want to do this. They want to connect to each other. Making that connection, sort of the capacity to do that, is the best people. We connect mostly to our sort of close in age peer group. And from there, once we have that connection, then we can learn and grow together in really profound ways. So in the city, we have as young as 8-year-olds that we've trained to be educators at their schools. And it's a near-peer education, right? We're not trying to supplant that classroom teacher, we're trying to augment it. Mm-hmm. So the kids come down in an activated space called a Learning Commons, and they hang out. We incentivize them in certain ways, and basically with math, computer science, and literacy, they are taking on some of the burden away from that classroom teacher to do all of the educating. We learn best when we teach, because we have to unpack it for novices in unique ways. So let's build that into the system and allow young people to teach.
Great.
Now, is it affordable? And can the folks who are watching, is it possible for them to get their kids involved?
Yeah, so we actually think that, as I talk with my team, we want to get to where parents start to demand for this to be in their schools. So it is very affordable for $8,000 a month for a school to pay that full license. We build the space, we bring the furniture, we bring the hardware, the technology, some of the most cutting-edge software. We hire 25 kids and pay them, and then we have a full-time person from our team that runs the program for the school.
And that's $8,000 a month from the school system.
Yep. So the choice would be...
How many of these commons do you have going?
We've got 15 right now, and we're looking to
town?
expand. So we have, let's see, most of my work, because my community is on the west side in Hawville, so I have my office space there right on West Michigan, just off over the White River. So we're in most of the schools on the west side, near northwest side, east side, far east side.
Great.
And then down by Garfield Park.
15? Yeah, 15.
Yep. So we have charter schools, public schools, private schools, home schools, places of faith. We want to work with everyone that is doing education, because that ecosystem is what really makes sense in our community, at least the way we think through it. We do a lot of learning at community centers like what our friends over at Hawthorne. Then you have Providence Crystal Ray right across the street. Then you've got George Washington down the street. Surely we can share assets between these all ecosystems that are trying to develop young people's capacity to do well.
So what kind of results are you all seeing so far?
That's probably the reason that we're in 15 schools right now, is that every young person that we've ever trained to be a near-peer educator or tutor has passed every standardized test that they've taken following that training. And it really isn't all that brilliant. It just proves that teaching is something that really accelerates your ability to learn. And these are all young students in some of our schools that do not typically pass these sorts of standard assessments, which I abhor, but it is part of what we're accountable to in the ed system. So if they're training to be teachers, we're also training them to be empathetic and good communicators and understand their fellow man and woman. And to me, I want to live in a community where everyone thinks of themselves as educators, so we teach the young people to think that way about both themselves and their capacity and then their ability to teach.
And they also get rigid and firm education in computer science.
That's right.
It's just amazing.
So the idea is, what could we do if we thought about the young kids in our schools differently than what we do right now? Right now we think that they're passive learners and we have to put that classroom teacher in front of them that's really good at doing that lecture. I don't think that ever worked, and I certainly don't think it's going to work in the communities that I spend most of my time in. Low resource families that have to deal with what poverty does to you, and the young people that come to school with poverty and homelessness, near homelessness, all of these things. A classroom that is being done to you will never work. And so an education ecosystem that's much different, where we enhance their capacity to learn through being an educator, seems to make sense.
It sounds like you're dealing with mostly minorities.
Yeah, we work, so the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded us for a year and a half to work in 4 schools, mostly in Hawville and then the near northwest side. So Global Prep, Ignite Academy, we are in Matchbook Learning, and then Paramount School of Excellence, which is on the east side. And they tasked us to work with predominantly underrepresented minority students or students that are experiencing poverty. Most of my professional work has been in communities like that in Texas and North Carolina, New York,
So you're
Chicago.
right at home.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in neighborhoods where I was very much the minority, and I learned a lot about what I didn't know growing up as a farm kid in Indiana.
What farm? What farm were you on? Where were you at?
I still raise my babies on the farm. So we have our kids are being raised on the 5th generation family farm up north in a little town called Thorntown.
Yeah.
And then we come in and get to have fun and try to do great things here.
That's amazing. A PhD farmer.
That's right. So it's on both sides, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to think through what people typically think is, in mathematics, we sort of think about this as something that's not accessible to a lot of folks. I think it's a skilled trade, just like building a fence. And if we have the right mechanisms for doing and teaching skilled trades, we can do the same thing in our schools for highly technical content domains.
And I'm sure the young people are excited about getting paid.
Yeah, so think about the types of things that we get to talk about now. How do we give an 8-year-old a financial incentive? Does it go to the family? Do we do 529 plans? Do we do a community trust where it can grow while they continue to work through school? Do we put it in their pocket? All of those we're trying, and we're learning as it goes that there's, as usual, there's unintended consequences for what we're trying to do. But if we can get a $400, $100 a week into a kid's pocket from the communities that we work in, we're talking a 15 to 20% increase in family income. That's a huge impact.
It's food.
It's
That's
food, among other things.
Talked about.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a direct investment into the family, but we have to learn to do it well, right? So community partners, nonprofits that have, like TeenWorks, that have financial literacy, credit unions that allow you to set up, free accounts so that young people learn how to build wealth, right? Mm-hmm. They may not be getting that from their families. We as a community need to do that for, if we want everything to be a community truly, then we need to provide that equitable support for those family members.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us. All the best.
Yeah, thanks.
Been a great guest today.
Thanks for having me on.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.
Thanks, Doc.
And thank you all for watching. We'll be back with the rundown. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
And I'm your executive producer, Faith McKinney.
A great couple of segments there.
It was. I thought it was, especially with Representative Summers. She's working in the health field as a representative, doing a great job.
With 2 big days coming
Two
up.
big days coming. Monday, September 16th, 6 to 8. They're going to have a town hall meeting at the Indiana Minority Health, which is at 3737 North Meridian. I think women ought to go out and check it out, and even men, if it be so.
Yeah, and on the 17th, she's got another great event coming up, and all that information will be available from the information on the screen.
It'll be on the screen. We'll make sure you get that information. But the young man we just had, amazing.
New concept in education, Faith.
Yeah, tell me all about it. What happened?
Well, you learn computer science in middle school, high
Get
school,
paid.
and get paid for it.
Yeah.
And by Bill, the Gates Foundation.
Yeah,
and
Bill and
they're
Melinda
putting
Gates.
money into poverty-stricken areas and to low-income family areas,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. It's strange how we can get other people from other states to do things, but it's hard to get people to do things in our state.
Yeah. They're working hard to get the word out. I met some of Dr. Berkopes' people at the InnoPower this year during the Black Expo, and they're doing some great things.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, to be able to learn that and move forward. And basically, he says that these kids are coming out, not mastering, but passing standardized testing, which is a problem in all communities. Yeah.
And he's got 15 sites.
15 sites. You would think that these school systems would buy into a system like this because it handles the tech end of it. When we have 16 tech coming online,
Yeah.
and it's just hard to get those things in place.
Yeah.
We don't want to spend the money for it.
Very important, and very important for you to go to the websites and take all this information and make sure that you don't get left out. We
Right.
certainly want to make sure that you and your family are getting the best of what is being offered on the show.
Absolutely. We try to provide our audience with knowledge of people, introduce them on this show so
And
that
some
they'll
hard
know.
knowledges as well, if you know what I mean.
Some
by
hard knowledge?
Yeah, some hard knowledge for some people. Any kind of knowledge that people are not willing to consume is hard knowledge.
Yeah, it hurts going in, but
Yeah.
it's good for you.
Yeah.
We have to know it.
And before we go, we want to thank our sponsors, Lee, Costle, and Crawley.
Yeah, we want to thank the Fervent Prayer Christian Academy. Not only that, we want to thank Indianapolis Minority Health Department, not Minority Health, but Indiana
County.
Health Department.
Looking at two different.
Yeah, we're looking at two different situations here, especially their program, which is the sleep program. They're doing a phenomenal job, and we hope that they will continue to do so.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time, same channel and same time.